Hello. Ooh, my heart. I'm gonna move it over here. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Freedom Friday. We're gonna explore emotions and imagination today. I'm so blessed to have four children, 15, almost 14, and then that little lady that was in the picture, she's 5. Totally, completely a surprise baby. Born at a time when I was incredibly emotionally and spiritually open, born into the year of the fire monkey. So, talk about a little girl who has a spark. And I gave her the middle name, and I'm going to say it. She needed a French middle name, Coeur. Her name was Isla Coeur, for heart. So, yeah, totally living from heart space. And, one of the things that I just love witnessing her is there is no limit to her imagination, and it is so absolutely real for her. Last weekend, we were at our lake house, and she found a little baby turtle, and she was playing with the baby turtle, and it was at the point where I'm like, hey, I think this turtle needs to go back. And so I took it and I put it back. And the moment I put it back, she had that moment where she could have gotten really upset. She could have had a lot of different emotions that popped up. But she looked at me with an equal amount of surprise. And with her hand, she goes, look, Mama, I found an invisible turtle. And she was like, oh, it's gonna fall off. We better get it. So it just was like, oh my God, it was just as real having that experience with the real turtle as it was when she discovered, like, oh, I can have an invisible turtle. So, one of the things I wanted to tap into and have each of you reflect on individually is, can you remember living like that? Can you remember feeling like anything is possible? And like her picture from this morning, like a cardboard box is your dream castle. And if it gets destroyed, that's okay too, all of that. So that kind of thinking comes from here. And there was a point in our lives where that's the only way we knew how to think. And what happens as we have our life experiences and we're introduced to society, and all of us have all different kinds of challenges to this, is we begin to question this, right? Our beliefs begin to create constraints and limits on the possibility of our imagination. But that it can't destroy it. It's still there within us. And just like what we've been talking about over the course of these Freedom Fridays, it's about consciously making a choice to tap into that gift, to reawaken your connection with that gift. So we are in the season of heart, summer. So literally the organ of heart. And I believe we touched on this last session as well, that the heart is a channel. It is a portal for spirit. And again, going back to when we were little, I mean, that's the only way we knew how to live, was in connection with spirit. We were here, and this wasn't getting in the way. So this is such a beautiful time for us to play with this concept of how can we connect into using our imaginations through seeing the world through that heart space in so many different ways in our lives. And again, actually, I'm going to touch on, let me tell a story. Because we're doing this anyway. We're just not aware of it. We're using our imaginations all the time. We're seeing through here all the time, but we get caught up and we don't realize consciously what we're doing. So a year ago, our circumstances were quite different. And we had gone through, I think we were all still in lockdown at this point. So we all had a choice, right? There are certain realities that we were all aware of with COVID. But there were also that space of how are you seeing it? What is the framework? What is the lens? What is the angle? How are you connecting into this space of what we were experiencing with the intensity of COVID and what it was for us? So we could have seen it as being like, and I'm sure, in the realities, it's scary, right? It's very scary. Like, I shouldn't go outside. Like, what might happen? I shouldn't go to the store. What might happen? What might happen to my family if somebody experienced COVID? So there's so much fear that ends up driving the imagination. It isn't that necessarily is our reality, But because we got so swept up in the fear side of things, it became our reality. And so when it becomes the reality on the inside, then the concept of the law of attraction, sometimes we end up creating those things in our visible reality. So we can use our imagination to create a hellish world, or we can use it to create the fantasy world like we saw with Isla. We could have shifted. It took all of my energy and strength to try to play with COVID in this way. How can I shift the way I see this experience? It's where I was a year ago. I'm still here. Seeing that it's here for good. How can I connect into seeing the light in this really intense shadow time that we're in? The opportunity to connect more deeply with my family because we're all in one space together. The way of really deepening my connection with faith, like I have said each time in different ways, there are no accidents. This is happening for a reason. This is happening for good. So that type of intense experience is an invitation of, am I going to get really sucked in to the dark side of things? Am I going to get stuck in that? Or am I going to see this as an opportunity, as a challenge, as a gift of like how, in this intensity, can I still use my creativity, use my faith, use my imagination and make this fun? How can we connect to this crazy time and make it and see the beautiful and see the good? So, this is really what the heart wants us to do. The heart, being the house of spirit, it wants us to connect to the biggest picture. And, being here in the time of summer, it wants us to really celebrate everything we've accomplished and to play and enjoy it. So I'm going to show you, this is an emotional, spiritual way of looking at our heart energy, the heart and small intestine. So you'll see two halves of the yin yang: peace, harmony, total faith, agitation, dissonance, and disconnect. So, and it isn't, that one side of this is bad and one side of this is good. What happens when we have these experiences, like when we were deep in COVID, or when you're having other life experiences that get really intense and make you question everything in life, is those are challenges that can deepen your connection with peace, harmony, and total faith. So the key becomes how can we, even in these most intense kind of situations, use that gift of our imagination to help take us from, look at what can happen up here, to this heart space where everything, it's all good. And I can connect into the bigger picture of this, and I can see the light. First of all, that's the reason why it has to be something that we're playing with, that we're practicing day to day, moment to moment. So then when we do get to these big situations, we can show up. We can show up, and even though we'll have moments that we get back up in here, with greater ease, we'll be able to get into this space. So, I encourage you to begin with just remembering times from especially from early childhood, when you, like my little one, had that kind of freedom, that connection with your spirit, that connection with your imagination, recalling those, finding pictures of you in those kinds of situations, because literally those experiences are integrated into every cell in our body, your cellular memory. So when you meditate, you consciously choose to reconnect into that time and space. When you choose to look at that picture and see that radiant spirit shining through you, it's going to help to build that connection, because that is you. It's not gone. No matter what you've been through, no matter what trauma you've experienced, that's still inside of you. And when you connect to it from this right now moment, you can awaken that ability to use that gift in the here and the now. So every single organ system in our body is connected with a different emotion. And these emotions literally impact organ function. And when you have imbalance in the organ function, you can tend to have different emotions. At first I was like, I'm gonna just talk about it all. It's just too much. It's way too much to dive into in one session. So what I'm choosing to do is this first session exploring more through the angle of heart. And then for the next 4 sessions hereafter, then we're going to dive into looking at the emotion and spirit of the other organs and discovering how can we connect in using the heart space, using imagination. So it's just so perfect timing wise to be here in the season of spirit and summer, to be here in the season of heart. And then we're going to see every organ. We want to see every organ system through that heart space. So yeah, knowing what I've been saying about the heart, I would encourage you just remember play. Play is going to be one of the best ways to help to get you to the space. You don't want to be like, okay, this is serious business. I have to start using my imagination and I need to make a checklist of what that looks like. No, you want it to be free, playful, to come from your own unique spirit in terms of what that may look like. So, yes, thank you, Barbara. She says, so true. We create whatever we experience, whatever experience we have. Yes, truly, truly. And I'm thinking even of imagination as a child, how it isn't necessarily bad. I used to love to play with fear and creating different kinds of like haunted houses and Halloweeny kind of things, because it's like, ooh, just like people like to watch scary movies. Why is it? There's something in the energy of that we like. And playing with that, even playing with the darker sides of what emotions we can evoke in our imagination in a light heart space, can actually train you so that if you have that experience, then you're more able to connect in and see it from that bigger perspective. So the other piece, that's right, play. Great reminder, definitely. The other piece that I want to encourage you is there's been a couple of practices. It's in the next 2 minutes. I'm just going to remind you that I have introduced you guys to over the past 3 Freedom Fridays. One, and again, if this is your first time joining us today, no problema. I have kept recorded archives of these on my website, and that link is in the information on this one. So in the first session, we explored about moving our emotions, because if you are in that kind of experience where everything is so stuck, you're like, what the heck is imagination? Either things aren't moving, or you're just so frustrated and angry by different situations, you may need to go back to that first session and let's get things moving, because in order to get to heart is about this really beautiful crystal and magical flow place. You ain't gonna get to that place if things are really heavy and stuck. So first go back, get that moving and shaking, then that will help to move you into this space. Now in the second one, we did talk more about connecting into the heart space. There was a practice where I taught you breath work. So that's another level that you can go back to that practice, holding hands at heart center, doing the breath work, and doing that at the same time, that conscious connection and remembrance of the time and space when you were that sparkly, free kiddo. And the sky was the limit, not even, and beyond, of course. The sky is, we can go anywhere interstellarly in our imagination. So using the opportunity to deepen your connection to these practices by connecting into imagination and heart space. And finally, in the session from last Friday, I taught you about the dragon stands between heaven and earth. And I will post another link of how you can learn to do that practice, because that truly is one of the most powerful ways, because you're connecting body, mind, and spirit, opening everything up, and then at the same time, engaging into that space of remembering yourself in that beautiful time and space where everything was just free flowing and nothing could stop you. So I encourage you to do that. The other thing that I wanted to share with you guys, I know in these sessions and through this page, we're going really deep and we're opening up. If there's anything that you have a particular question about, I encourage you to post here. This is a safe space to do that, and I'd love to open more of a dialogue with you guys about different things you might be experiencing. One of the things that I've witnessed, as you can tell, I'm a kind of lady who just puts everything out there. What I've learned is the more that I open myself up the quicker my processing happens, processing doesn't like to happen hidden and buried and all quiet away. The more that, as you're willing, as you feel ready, putting yourself out there is a great way to be able to support your own processing. And I guarantee you, whatever you're experiencing is something that somebody else out there is experiencing as well. So we support each other through this. If you're at the level where you're like, yeah, I have a question, but I don't want to put it on Facebook, feel free to email me at ndhealingcenter@gmail.com, and we can get started. Actually, on my website too, we could set up a session and we can just chat one-on-one. The other thing that I have coming up very soon is 5 days, 5 ways to awaken your immune health. So even if you're like, I don't know if that appeals, you know, given all this, the way we're talking about things here, it's just a different lens, a different framework for being able to explore all this stuff. So we'll be diving into looking at the immune system from this body, mind, spirit angle, and learning all the different ways that you can support it, whether it's through digestive health and energy. It's going to be a lot of fun. So the information on that is in the events on this page as well, and I encourage you to register so that I can get you all set up with the Zoom link when the time comes. So yeah, I think for me today, my number one thing I want to encourage you all to do is get out there and play with all of it. And I mean, it's like the active level of play. It's playing with all of your stuff, right? Playing with your stuff. Playing with the stuff that yes, the beautiful, wonderful, fun stuff, but also the stuff that's a little sticky. You know, that goes back to that first session. How can we even play with the stickiest, stinkiest, darkest, icky stuff that we can even play with that? So encourage you all to do that. And again, have a beautiful day, and yay!